Jake Sully is a war hero with a disability who lives a dull life in the United States. Every day, he goes to a bar, gets into fights with other people, and thinks about the good times he had in the past. But he had no idea that his life was about to change completely. One day, some government agents told him that his twin brother Tom had been killed. Jake is very upset about the news, but the authorities want to move on, to finish what his brother started but didn't finish. It turns out that Tom was going to check out a recently discovered world called Pandora, which seems to have life like Earth. Jake thinks about the idea for a while, but as soon as the officials tell him he will be paid in millions, he says yes. After that, he goes into cryosleep for 6 years to get ready for the task. When he wakes, he finds himself with several other people on the way to Pandora. Jake got this chance because he and his brother are genetically identical. In the next scene, a spaceship takes Jake and the rest of the team to Pandora. Everyone is told to wear respirators with full faces. Since the atmosphere on the planet is too toxic for humans to live in, just 20 seconds of exposure will kill them in 4 minutes. As soon as Jake lands on the mysterious planet, he goes to a military briefing where Colonel Miles is talking to a group of soldiers and civilians. He tells them of Pandora's original people, the Na'vi, and adds that if they want to live, they must abide by the rules. Later, Jake goes to a place where scientists do study and meets Norm Spellman. She shows him his own computer-generated character for the first time. Then it is told that a human can act like a Na'vi on the planet Pandora if they connect to their avatar, which is a genetically created mix of a human and a Nav. As Jake and Norm walk into the science department, the program's science lead, Dr. Grace Augustine, wakes up in a pod that ties her to her image. Norm tries to introduce her to Jake, but she acts angry and walks out of the room. She's probably mad because she's turned into an alien. Grace then faces the base captain and an agent of the Resources Development Administration, or the RDA, Parker. Selfridge RDA is a company that is in charge of all the troops and other workers at the colony. She tries to get Parker to agree that Jake is useless because he can't walk and isn't a scientist. But Park says that Jake is the only one who has clothes like his brother Tom's, which is a key part of making his model come to life. Besides, he's pretty. It will help the show. Stop asking. The next morning, Jake and Norm are linked to their avatars back in the lab soon after Jake's image wakes up in a different room. Surprised, he can now move his legs and walk around, which is something he hasn't been able to do in years. He ignores his physician's orders and runs to the recreation area where several other avatars are participating in sports and enjoying themselves. In the future, when he wakes up in his human form after the link is broken. Then, he meets the Colonel and starts to talk to him. Jake asks the Colonel what the real reason is for their trip to the planet, and the Colonel finally tells him. It is said that Pandora has a very rare type of rock called unobtainium, which is worth billions of dollars on Earth. Inside the group, you can find the best and biggest unobtainium rocks the people of the Na'vi live in. Jake will have to find a way to get them to leave since they won't want to see their land taken over by people. The Colonel says that Jake has 3 months to fit in exactly with the Na'vi and convince them to leave their home planet. Jake will get a new pair of legs if the task goes well. But if the Na'vi people still don't move after 3 months, a military team will be sent, which will probably kill them all. Race. The day after, Jake links up with his character and flies over the surface of Pandora with Grace, Norm, and a few other people. Soon, they got to a place and started gathering flora samples. Jake, who was new to the strange surroundings, got lost and ran into a strange animal in a field of flowers. From behind, an adder that looks like a cat follows Jake, pulling him away from his friends. He saves himself by jumping into a river while Thea is screaming above him. Jake's crew looks for him for some time, but they soon leave when it starts getting dark. Jake can be seen at night making a spear out of a long stick. He has lost all of his tools, so he has to do this. A female Na'vi is looking down on him from above. She gets ready to shoot an arrow at him, but stops when a bright, strange thing drops on her bow. At the same time, Jake is attacked by a bunch of viper wolves. This time, it seems as if he has met his doom for sure. But to his surprise, a female Na'vi comes to his help and scares the wolves away. However, she is not pleased with Jake and instructs him to return back to his rightful place. Then, she gets ready to go, but Jake starts to follow her. He also asks that she teach him how to stay alive. At first, the Na'vi doesn't want to help him, but when a few of the strange glowing things from earlier land on Jake's body, she changes her mind and takes him to her place. She also says that her name is Neytiri. But when they get to the place they were told to go, the Na'vi people, especially Neytiri's girlfriend, are quickly mean to them. The next person in line for the wants to kill the mixed human right away. Neytiri stops them and takes Jake to her parents, who are also the king and queen of the tribe. Jake tells them that he is a fighter and that he wants to learn about their way of life. When the queen hears this, she pokes him in the chest and drinks his blood. She figures out that he has a clean spirit, so she asks Neytiri to teach him and help him. Jake is his name. He looks like he's from Canada or somewhere, but he seems fine. After a traditional meeting, Jake is put to sleep in his bed, which wraps around him like a shroud. Jake, who is human, wakes up in the room the next morning. He tells all the experts, including Grace, about the crazy thing that happened to him. But the Colonel tells him again that he only has. It took him 3 months to finish his task. In the next scene, the human Jake talks about his day in a video log that he makes at the end of each day. He says that his image is hard at work training with Neytiri. One day she asks him to choose a sko, a strange-looking animal, for his ride. Initially, he is skeptical about the idea, but after a lot of insisting and because it's free and mounts usually cost 40 gold, he chooses one and attaches his neural cue to its antenna. He then learns how to steer this gown and likes riding it. Later human, Jake informs the Colonel and Parker about the enormous home tree, the Navy's residence, and a significant unobtainium deposit. Beneath it, the Colonel sees an opportunity to destroy the tree, but Jake requests he be allowed to negotiate with the Navy and convince them to leave. In the meantime, Grace learns that Jake is being manipulated, so she relocates him to the Hallelujah Mountains, a secluded location of enormous floating islands that are holy to them. It turns out that she is on Pandora just to research the place and wants nothing to do with the unobtainium rocks. One day while Jake and Neytiri are flying on their SCOs, they are unexpectedly pursued by a Duroc, a vividly colored flying mountain monster that hates anything that flies. Fortunately, they manage to escape to the home tree, and Neytiri shows Jake the remains of the former Toro. She reveals that the last person to ride a Toro was her great-grandfather, who did it to bring together the 5 Navi. During a tough period, Nair adds that it has been decades since anyone even dared to ride a Toro. With the days passing by, the Navi tribe finally starts accepting Jake as one of their own, and they even hold a ceremony to honor him. After the ceremony, Nair takes him to a place of prayer where they utilize the nerve endings at the end of their long hair to establish a connection with a tree. Oh, Mama Na informs him that he may now pick a woman as his wife. Jake thanks for a while and reveal he wants to marry her. Nair is clearly astounded, but she accepts the proposal and the two kiss. After this, the new couple spends their night together under the tree and Jake gains back consciousness in the lab. This complicates things, thinks Jake. Once you go blue, nothing else feels true. In the morning, Nair awakens to falling trees and notices a number of bulldozers around destroying the place. She realizes that they are being attacked and tries her best to drag Jake to safety. Meanwhile, at their remote spot, Jake is getting ready to link with his avatar, and when he finally revives, he climbs onto one of the bulldozers and tries to stop it when nothing else works. He smashes its camera system, compelling the soldier fire at him. Fortunately, Jake manages to escape and reach the home tree back at the base. The Colonel watches the surveillance tape and identifies Jake as the avatar who attempted to thwart their mission, enraged. He then enters the room and looks for Jake and Grace while the bulldozers continue to work and destroy the Omake's sacred place. Meanwhile, the Navi assemble under the home tree and resolve to battle the invaders. Jake and Grace protest against it and make an effort to stop them from doing so. However, the warrior Sue tries to kill Jake after knowing that he and Nather made it for life, despite him being betrothed to her as the situation heats up. Suddenly both Grace and Jake's avatars fall unconscious as the links between them and their human forms are abruptly broken by the Colonel. In the next scene, the Ardia and military commanders are confronted by an angry Grace who discloses that the Navi can access a network made out of Pandora's trees that has more neurological connections than the human brain. Just like mushrooms, she and Jake then state that the navies will never move out of their place. The home tree. Hearing this, the Colonel decides to invade the home tree and use gas bombs to drive the Navi away. Alarmed, Jake begs the base commander Parker to allow him to use his avatar so that he can convince the navies to leave. Parker obliges, but he warns that Jake has only 1 hour to achieve his objective. Once he is back among the Navi, he informs them that they're under invasion from humans and admits that he is one of them. Neytiri, hearing this, pushes Jake for betraying her trust. I thought you were just a real heavy sleeper. She says the other Navi are equally devastated, so they abduct Jake and Grace as hostages. After this, they prepare to fight the humans who have arrived in a large number of flying. Then the war begins. The Navi try their best, but their bows and arrows are of no match against the humans' heavy artillery. Unfortunately, after several explosions, the home tree is eventually brought down, which kills several Navi in the process. During the chaos, the Queen unexpectedly returns to the captive humans and releases them. She then begs them to save their tribe, wasting no time. Jake approaches Neytiri and tries to console her, but to no. During the assault, Nair's father is mortally wounded, and as he passes away, he demands that she take his sacred bow and lead his people. Suddenly, Jake and Grace return to their human forms and are immediately detained for treason. Norm is also apprehended for attempting to stop troops from shutting down their avatar forms. Meanwhile, the remaining Navi regroup at the Tree of. Back at the base, Jake and his friends are secretly released by their team pilot, Trudy. Then they fly away in her spacecraft and attempt to reach the Navi. Unfortunately, along the way, the evil Colonel notices them and shoots at the spacecraft. Grace is seriously injured and it appears as if she is going to bleed out. After a while, the group reaches the floating mountains where Jake jumps inside a pod and awakens as his avatar. Knowing that the Navi will not accept him, he then makes the audacious choice to call upon his SCO and go on a mission to locate the two. His strategy is simple, but can easily result in his death. Jake then slowly approaches the dangerous Toro from above and jumps onto its back. When I saw this in theaters a decade ago, this part made me go, whoa. Then in the midst of the Ahmed Keen ritual, we see him riding the Torek to the Tree of Souls. This shocks all the Navi, and they finally welcome him back with the utmost respect. Then Jake asks the warrior Suti for assistance in battling the human army, and the latter complies with the Na'vi. Now, by his side, Jake attempts to save his dying friend Grace, and he even enlists the Queen's help. However, all of their efforts go in vain as Grace succumbs to her injury. This fuels Jake's anger, and he motivates the Na'vi to unite and chase the humans away. By the end of the day, they approach their rival clans and gather around 2,000 additional Na'vi. Meanwhile, the Colonel notices the Na'vi in large numbers and shifts his attention towards the Tree of Souls. So he orders his men and marches towards the location, but to his surprise, the Na'vi also show up both on land and in the air. Jake is flying on his legendary Toro. Walt Sui and the other warriors are ready to sacrifice themselves for their land. Soon a deadly battle begins and dead bodies start piling up on both sides. But this time, because of the SCOs, the human artillery slowly begins falter. In the midst of all this, Jake is pursued and shot at by the Colonel's Dragonfly ship. Fortunately, Trudy arrives there in the nick of time and opens fire at the Colonel, providing Jake with enough time to flee. On the other hand, Nair's SCO is shot down and killed. Walt Sui is also killed in the explosion from the ground. Nair observes the devastation and starts panicking. In the meantime, a large bomb ship approaches the Tree of Souls. It seems like the humans are going to have their way after. But suddenly, through what's left of the surrounding forest, a battalion of Titan Theories, Pandora's heavily armored dinosaur-like animals, arrive and start attacking the soldiers. Overjoyed, Na'vi rejoins the fight with several of Pandora's species behind her. Surprisingly, when Ayanora appears nearby, it bows to her submissively. Then as the military's ground forces scatter in confusion, Jake raises his Toro into the air to meet the bomb ship. He then throws grenades at the ship, forcing it to crash far from the Tree of Souls. Jake also launches explosives at the Colonel's spacecraft, but the latter escapes in an amp suit before it catches fire and explodes. Unfortunately, the Colonel discovers himself at Grace's makeshift camp. He tries to turn off Jake's avatar pod, but at the same time, the aider that Nair had linked attacks him. Surprisingly, he successfully kills it with his suit, trapping Nair underneath it. But before the Colonel gets a chance to assassinate her, Jake arrives at the scene in his avatar. The two then start going back and forth, but in the end, the Colonel gains an upper hand. He is about to finish off Jake, but at that very moment, Neytiri gets up and shoots an arrow at the Colonel, impaling him through the chest without wasting any time. She fires a second arrow, which instantly kills the Colonel. However, before his death, he has already done enough damage to Jake's pod. Because of this, human Jake is awake, but having difficulty both breathing and trying to get a mask on. Neytiri shows up and assists him in getting his mask. She then cradles human Jake and gets a good look at his real body for the first time. So Keith, in the last scene, Jake signs out his final video log telling us that he has been chosen to permanently transfer his consciousness to his avatar. The film concludes with a ritual in which Jake awakens in his avatar form with Neytiri watching over him.